I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. And then you came along and you put me back together. Now every desire is now satisfied here in your love. And oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, and nothing is better than you. Oh, now I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. Well, there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. No, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. No, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, and nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. No, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, and nothing is better than you. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Yes, you're the only one who People will come together, strangers, neighbors, our blood is one. Children of generations, of every nation, of kingdom come. So don't let your heart be troubled. Just hold your head up high, don't fear no evil, and fix your eyes on this one truth. God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. Oh, 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 Jesus, with Jesus and our redemption. Yes, our salvation is in His blood. Jesus, a light of heaven, a friend forever. His kingdom come, and don't let your heart be trouble. Just hold your head up high, don't fear no evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth: God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. Go sing it. Swing wide, all you heavens, let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Swing wide, oh swing wide, all you heavens, let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. One more time, sing swing wide, come on. Oh, it's swing wide, all you heavens, let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Jesus, our redemption, is our salvation, is in His blood. Jesus, light of heaven, a friend forever. His kingdom come.
Well, welcome again to Mission Mission. It's just really good to be together. Man, if you're new around Mission, or maybe this is your first time checking us out online, be sure to fill out the New Here form. There's a link in the chat. It's also on our app. You can just hit the new button and fill out the form there. We would really love to send you a free gift. It's a Mission Church coffee mug, just to say thanks for checking us out and love to connect you in any way. We also have a prayer button there on the app. So if you've got something going on in your life, this is for any and all of us, and you'd really appreciate some people praying for you, man, be sure to fill out that form and just let us know how we could be praying for you. Our team gathers every Tuesday and just feel so honored to pray alongside one another. The app, by the way, is just a great way to be connected. So no matter how long you've been around Mission, if you haven't downloaded the app, download the app. There's so much there, things about Mission students, information on Mission kids. You can listen and watch past messages. One of the buttons that gives you the most current things going around Mission is the 411 button. It'll tell you what's currently going on right here at Mission and ways that you can sign up for different things. So download the app and be sure to check that out. Also, things just to highlight a couple of things are coming up. We have child dedications happening next Sunday on Mother's Day. And child dedications are just an opportunity for parents or guardians to express their desire that they want to raise their kid, they want to raise their baby in a way to know God and to know His love. And it's also an opportunity for the rest of us to come alongside these families and say, hey, we see you, we affirm you, and we will support you in that. So if you've had a baby over the past year, or you've got real little ones and it's your desire to raise them in a way that they would know and love God, sign up for child dedications next week. There's a link there in the chat, or it's also in the app. But make sure that you sign up for that next Sunday. It's going to be a great celebration together on Mother's Day. Another thing just wanted to highlight is, hello, Feed 805 has been absolutely insane. Just so incredibly proud and blown away at the way this church, our church community, Ventura County, so many other churches, organizations, grocery stores have just gotten involved in this incredible food drive for Food Share. So our goal was to raise 60,000 bags of food, and we won't know our goal yet because all this food's got to be picked up by Food Share and weighed. And so make sure that you follow Mission on social media this week, Facebook or Instagram, to find out how much we really did collect. But man, if you were to walk into this building, you would just be blown away. There is food everywhere. And it's a really cool thing. So thank you so much for participating in Feed 805, this food drive. If you're just hearing about it and you're like, oh, I want to be a part, drop off your stuff at Food Share. They're always taking donations, and it's a really cool way to help people with food insecurity in our county. Well, Feed 805 is just one example of generosity that happens around here at Mission, and generosity is such a heartbeat of this church because we want to help people, and we want to make kingdom investments, and we want to really bring tangible hope and practical help, and the way that we do that is linking arms together and giving of our resources, and doing that in a way that we trust God with everything that we've got. And so we want to give, and we want to be a part of something beyond ourselves. We want to be a part of something bigger than us, and we want to be a part of what God is doing. So there's several ways to give. You can text to give, you can give in the app, you can give online, you can set up recurring giving. That's something my husband and I have chosen to do, just so it's like, first things first, man. We want to give this to God, and we want to invest in the work that God is doing in this community and around the world. So thank you so much for being generous and participating in any way that you can today. We're in week 4 of a series that's called Relationship Goals, and Mike Hickerson is teaching us today. Welcome to Mission.
What is up, Mission Church Online? My name is Mike Hickerson. I'm honored to be the lead pastor of Mission Church. Man, I am so stoked this weekend. Feed 805 has been ridiculous. I'm so ridiculously proud of our church. I'm proud of our county, the way that we've stepped up to the plate to meet some under-resourced, some people in need, to provide real, tangible, practical help and hope. Well done. Multiple churches, multiple businesses, so many families, so many places getting involved to help feed the food insecure of our county. Love Food Share, partnering with them. So proud to be part of a church that meets tangible needs in our community. Well done. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Man, our church exists to help people find and follow Jesus. That's what we're going after. We're trying not to overcomplicate it because life is complicated enough. We're trying to just spend our lives going after Jesus. And man, there are no perfect people here. There are no perfect people in this chat. There's no perfect people at our church. There's for sure no perfect people on this stage. But what there are as a part of our church is a bunch of rescued people. A bunch of rescued sons and daughters of God, because God is who he says he is and will do everything that he's promised to do. He sent his son Jesus into the mess to rescue and save us, and that is good news for all of us. It means there's hope for every single one of us. And man, I don't know about you, but we all need hope. We all need a little bit of hope that things don't have to stay stuck where they are, that we don't have to stay stuck in the same hurts or habits or hangups, that we can be transformed from the inside out, not just rescued sons and daughters, but transformed sons and daughters into the best versions of who God created us to be. Man, if you're just checking in and you haven't been around church or listening to anything in a long time, I want you to know that there's hope for every single one of us. No matter where you've been or what you've done or how far you've run away from God, he's really fast and wants to pursue us, not because he's angry, because he desires relationship with us, and that's good news. In fact, that relationship, the stuff that's kind of been driving us is, man, God designed us for a relationship. He designed us for a relationship with him, and he designed us for a relationship with each other. So we said, what better way to come out of the COVID cave and the COVID fog than going, okay, how do we, we've been isolated a little bit from relationships. We've had some online relationships. We've had some relationships from distance, and we've had some relationships from text. So as we're coming back together relationally, how do we kind of get back into the mode where we could do relationships God's way, where we could do relationships right? So we said, you know what, let's have some goals for all of our relationships, for our dating relationships, for our marriage relationships, for our friend relationships, for our parenting, for our work relationships. Let's have some goals that we want to say, man, this is what we want to be about. Imperfect people as we are, and imperfect relationally as we are, let's have some goals for them though. Because without a goal, you just kind of keep on doing the same old thing. If you keep doing the same old thing, you end up in the same old places. We want to be the best version of ourselves. So we set some goals for ourselves relationally. We said, first of all, let's do it God's way. We've tried every other way. Tried Oprah's way, Phil's way, we've tried, you name it's way, but let's do it God's way. We've tried it our parents' way, we've tried it our way, whatever. Let's say, if God is who he says he is and he built us for relationships, then he knows the best way to possibly live. And I found I am imperfect, and this is not a shock, but when I am doing relationships God's way, man, it is the best way to live. And it's so good. I challenge all of us to go back and listen to this message, to have that foundational principle of doing it God's way. Secondly, we want to say, one of the most powerful principles that we can live relationally together is that when you say, when we want to power up, when we have this thing that we think they're most important, or, we think this relationship is about us, that we want to be the kind of people that say, you know what? You first. That if two people are in relationship together trying to put the other person first, they're trying to compete of how much they can put the other person first, man, that is a great way to live. It's a great way to live in our working relationships, and our parent relationships, and our child relationships, our dating relationships, our marriage relationship. I mean, let's keep going. Let's just try to put each other first in all things. And last week we walked through, let's have some fun. Let's have that joy of the Lord be our strength. Let's let that kind of be the pervasive element of people may not believe everything that we believe about God, but the way that we do relationships, there's just something that brings life to it. And the way that we live. Let's go after that kind of goal together. Today we're going to talk about fighting right, which that'll be fun for us. And next week, Mike Bro will be around Mission talking on Mother's Day, talking us from walker to walker to how do you have these long-term relationships where you're doing all these things God's way and putting people first and having fun and fighting right over the long haul and some of that life-giving stuff that happens there. So if we're going to fight right, I think it's helpful to realize that we're all imperfect people. So I don't know if you know this, but all the imperfect people in your world, you're imperfect also. So every relationship you have has multiple imperfect people in it. For instance, when you're driving around, I think the worst drivers in the world follow me around, right? Anyone else agree that the worst drivers in the world follow you around? But the only consistent thing around when I'm driving is me as an imperfect driver. And some of us have had the worst friendships in the world. We could look back over our life and we've had the worst friends, the worst friends, the worst friends, the worst friends. The only consistent person in that relationship? It's in the mirror every day when we're looking at them. Some of us think that we have the worst relationships in all time. There's just imperfectness all in our relationships. And then all of a sudden conflict arises and we started fighting. We have these styles that we've kind of been ingrained, whether it be from family or origin or things like that. And so I want to kind of help us pick out some of the styles that we may go after. So maybe you recognize these in other people, or maybe you recognize these in yourself. And so maybe pick out a couple that you're an expert at. For instance, the first one, the toddler. This is the one that's the conflict sometimes brings out the 3-year-old in us, the inner 3-year-old in us, where we want our way, we throw a fit, we pout, we go to the corner, we stomp our feet, we do that thing. I mean, yes, 3-year-olds throw fits when they don't get their way, but 3-year-olds aren't real smart all the time. I mean, I know you probably have a real smart, but they're probably not real conflict smart. They don't know how to fight right. They're probably not sure exactly how to do things God's way. But some of us stay stuck in the toddler mode of fighting style where we have like the 23-year-old fit or the 43-year-old fit, or the 63-year-old fit that we throw, and we're like, mine, mine, mine. You know, that's the way it works. If you're a toddler, I love you. We're all going to relate to some of these styles, so there's no offense taken there. Some of us are like the trash compactor. It's like we want to sweep conflict under the rug. You're never allowed to have a conflict in a friendship or a working relationship or a dating relationship or a marriage. No way. Like, we're going to just sweep it under the rug and we're going to stuff it away. But like a trash compactor does, if you never empty that thing, if it never really gets dealt with, eventually you can put all that stuff in there and it just starts leaking and stinking. And so some of us, we handle conflict that way until one day it just all goes, whoa, because it just can't handle anymore. And all that stuff has been leaking and stinking from us because we've never dealt with it in our entire life. We just keep the trash compacted down. Some of us, this fighting style would be the Terminator. When it's like seek and destroy, like you are doing everything you can, you are laying waste to the landscape around you, and then you may slam the door and say, "I'll be back" on your way out. The fourth style that we would have would be the stealth bomber. You know, that like you don't even see it coming. Like you have this passive aggressive style where you can just walk out the door and say, "We'll see you later, Your Majesty." That kind of thing is what I've heard my father-in-law say. It's just where you lob these bombs and no one sees it coming. It's very passive, and by the time somebody gets that you are mad at them or gets that something's going on or gets that there's a rift in the relationship, you're gone and they can't deal with it. Fifth way is the sulker. It's also called the hypophine-react. When you know, like the person, the friend, the boss, the person you're in a relationship, the spouse, you know that something's wrong and you know that you probably did it, but they're not going to let you off the hook to tell you what it is yet. And you're like, "What's up?" And you're like, "Nothing." They're like, "Well, something's up." "No, I'm good. Everything's fine." No, seriously, something seems off. Are we okay? "No, we're good. I just, this processing that thing you did." "Well, what did I do?" I'm not ready to talk about it. But I'm just going to let you know that I'm just going to be over here. So hopefully you figure out what you did. And when you come around, then maybe I'll let you in on why I'm upset. And maybe if you're good enough to apologize, then maybe we'll be okay. But I'm not going to tell you what it is because you should know. That's the sulker. The Arctic tundra, this is one of my go-tos. When I get frustrated, when I get in conflict, when I feel like I can't win the argument or win the fight, then I will just freeze you out. I'll be like, "I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm going to treat you cold. We're going to like walk by each other in the hall like we don't know each other because I just want to freeze you out until I've calmed down, until I want to be in control of the situation, the conversation." That's real fun to be in relationship with. That's my preferred style. And then there's the prosecuting attorney, where you have case files. You are a great litigator, an interrogator. You have recording devices. Like, you know all the stuff that's going on, and you may not even be right, but your conflict style is to win the fight. Now, I don't know which one that you're an expert in, and if you're an expert at all of them, man, good on you and who in your friendship world or working world or relational world is. But it's helpful to realize that we all have some styles that are unhealthy that we bring to the table when we go to fight. But man, if we're going to have a relationship goal, if we're going to go after it together, we've got to learn that we got to fight right. Like, we got to be the kind of people that handle conflict well. And I saw this the other day, and I thought this was just brilliant stuff. And this two arrows conversation, I think, would help us. And so there's the same direction where two people are going in the same direction. There's the two people are drifting apart direction. We're against each other direction, diametrically opposed, or we want different things direction. And it helped me started thinking, like, this is a great tool to use when next time that we're in a fight and realizing, are we going in the same direction in life? Let's just do this as I'm going to put where I think our two arrows are heading in life, and then the other person I'm in a relationship, where do you think our arrows are heading in life? And then where are we missing? Where are we disconnected? And then I think there's some issues and conversations around relationship that you could put, like when it comes to faith in our friendships or our working relationships or our dating relationships or our marriage relationships, when it comes to how we're handling faith, how are we doing in this? Are we headed the same direction faith-wise where God's at the center of all of our decisions in our marriage or all of our decisions in our working relationship? Are we drifting apart faith-wise? Are we against each other faith-wise? It's always going to breed conflict when we realize that there are two people that have diametrically opposed views on faith. It's going to breed some conflict. Or we just want different things. See how this would be helpful to help us learn how to fight right about the actual issue going on? Or maybe it's not just faith, maybe it's family and how we handle family, how we parent, how we handle holidays, how we handle the ways that, all those things, family of origin, how we spend times at different people's house, or relatives' house, all that kind of stuff. Where are we on these two arrows? Or maybe let's talk about finances. Where are we finances-wise? Like what role does finances play in our relationship? How would we gauge, how would we put our two arrows? Where are we on trust in our relationship? Where are we on communication? Where are we, if you're married, where are we on intimacy? Are we heading the same direction? Are we drifting apart? Are we against each other? These are the normal things that people fight about at all times. So what if we could just fight right about them? And realize, are we heading in opposite directions? Are we moving away from each other? Do we want different things? Are we headed in the same exact direction in a God-honoring way? I think that would be helpful for us. I want to get us to the Bible because, man, the Bible has so much to say about relational conflict and fighting and how we could do it right. And God's people should be a model of how to handle relational conflict right. I'm going to work through just a couple verses in James, who is the half-brother of Jesus. He wasn't even a Christian until Jesus rose from the dead. Some of you are like, if Jesus rises from the dead, then maybe I'll become a Christian. That's exactly what James was. That's why Easter's a big deal. And so he starts writing. He becomes this leader in the church because what would your brother have to do to convince you that he was the Son of God? Exactly, raised from the dead. And he's going to point to us that if we're going to fight right, we got to understand that we got to identify the source of conflict. There are many versions of conflict in our world, but there's only one source of conflict. There are a lot of approaches of how we could handle conflict, but there are lots of responses to it, but there's only one source of it. And this is what he would say. James 4:1 would say it this way: what causes fights and quarrels among you? Have you ever thought about that? Like, what is it? Why are we fighting? Because we're competitive? You probably have an opinion of what causes fights and quarrels among you. Your last fight, I bet you have an opinion of who caused it and what caused it. You may even have a name of what caused. It's not even a what, it's a who causes fight and quarrels among you. And I bet if I ask you to talk to the person that you're watching this right now, fights and quarrels will probably break out in the moment. So call a truce for a second, because we don't want fights and quarrels right now breaking out when we're talking about what causes fights and quarrels, when we're trying to do fight right in our relationship goals. What we do is what causes fights and quarrels among us is we blame. Well, he won't do this and she won't do that, and they spend money and he doesn't work hard enough and she sulks around and he's insensitive and the kids won't behave and parents just don't understand. And we think if everyone would just do what I tell them, there would be peace. If everyone would just do the things that I want in the way that I want them done, in the speed and manner in which I want it to happen, everything would be fine. Right? Ever been there? We're like, well, if you just do what I said, we'd be fine relationally. Who wants to be in relationship? That's not the way that we go about our relationships together. As long as we're blaming people for our unhappiness, if we're blaming other people for our unhappiness, it's her, it's him, it's them, we take our happiness, we take our joy, we take our connection with God, and we hand it over to them to have power over us with, because we can't be happy until we are okay. And that is not how we want to do it. If they would start, if they would stop, if they would quit, we are handing over our happiness, we're handing over our contentment, we're handing over our connection with God to other people to have control of, because it's on them to make it right with us before we can move any further. Until we understand what James is talking about, we're going to have trouble. Let's go back to the verse. It says this: what causes fights and quarrels among you? And he says, don't they come from your desires that battle within you? Don't they come from this desire thing? What that means is, isn't there something that you want that you're not getting? So in your relationship, in your friendships, there's conflict. Think about the last conflict you had with a friend. There was something that you want your way, and you didn't get it. Those of us that are married, we are pros at this. There's things that we want. There's things that we want done. There's a way that we want something done, and we don't get it. And so then we'll go every other place except for that issue that we want to talk about. And so this is what's going on. You want to know where fights and quarrels come from? From our desires. You know what the problem is here? I'm not getting what I want. That sounds like a 3-year-old to me, but it's helpful because happens to me all the time. I so mess up in this. But the relationship goal that I want for my life is to fight right. So it helps, for me when, Jody and I'm not getting something I want, and we don't fight a ton, but when there's fights and quarrels going on with us, it's helpful for me to go, you know what the problem is here, Joe? I'm not getting what I want. Because it helps me get down to the issue of it's the stuff that's going on in me that's causing the fight and quarrel. You know why I'm so mad at my team right now? Because I'm not getting what I want. She's the problem. He's the problem. You know what the problem is here? You know why we want to fight? You know why we want to bow up all the time? Because I'm not getting what I want. Can you imagine what would happen in our homes, in our schools, in our marriages, in our relationships, in our offices, in our workplaces? If we went and said, you know what? How would God have us handle conflict? And realize that it's the stuff that I'm not getting what I want that's going on inside of me that's causing me to fight. And I've been fighting wrong my whole life. What would it look like for me to fight right? I mean, it's not a new problem. In fact, this goes back to the very first relationship. This is a very old problem with all of broken humanity that are imperfect. So we've got Adam and Eve in the garden. Their one thing is like, go and have babies. There's no laws. No, just have babies, schedule, subdue, rule, be responsible, have fun in the garden. You have one rule. Because when you have a lot of responsibility and a lot of freedom and a lot of relationship, you need very little rules. That's the same for a family. That's the same for a culture. That's the same for a relationship. Let me say that again. When you have lots of responsibility and trust and roles to play and love for each other, you need very little rules because there's a lot of trust. And so Adam and Eve in the garden with God, there is one rule. Do not eat from this tree. Let's go back to it. So it's the oldest relationship in the book. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other wild animals that the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? The woman said to the serpent, we may eat from the trees in the garden, but God did say you must not eat from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will certainly die. You will not certainly die, the serpent said to the woman, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Verse 6, when the woman saw the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. Don't. I mean, like, we're all like, stupid Eve, what are you doing? Like she took some and ate it. Verse 7, she also gave some to her husband who was with her. Where was Adam when all this was going down? With her. That'll be important later. And he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were open, and they realized that they were naked, so they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. Verse 8, then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord God among the tree of the garden. Anytime when we're in rebellion, it leads to hiding. Anytime we're in conflict, it leads, most of the time, most of us want to avoid it and get away from it as much as possible. But the Lord God called to the man and said, where are you? I'm going to stop there for a second. Do you think that God didn't know where they were? Like it's playing hide and seek with a 3-year-old. Like God knows exactly where. Just remember the questions that God is asking, the question that Jesus asked in the Bible all the time are not because Adam needed the information, but not because God needed the information, but because he wanted Adam to have the information. He wanted Adam to come out of hiding. Anytime that we are wrong, anytime that we're in rebellion, anytime that we're in conflict, it always leads to covering and hiding. And God is always inviting us to step out and come back into relationship with him. Where are you? Like God didn't know. But what he always wants is people that are in hiding to be able to take a step out and be known again. Verse 10, Adam answered, I heard you in the garden. I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. And God said, who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from? And Adam responds this way. He says, yes, I did, and I take full responsibility for my actions. Do with me as you will, but leave Eve out of this because she is innocent. I'm kidding. That is actually not in the Bible. So this is not Genesis 3, verse 12. I wish that Adam would have done this, but this is the act. Let me show you what actually Adam did. So if you didn't know that, this is exactly what Adam did. The man said, the woman that you put here with me, God, she gave me some of the fruit of the tree, and I ate it. We never take responsibility when we're in conflict because we always want to put it on somebody else's fault. Adam's going, I didn't even ask for a woman. The woman, God, that you put here with, I didn't even know what a woman was, God. I mean, I'm not complaining now, but I didn't even know. So the woman that you put here with me, that's the problem. And in fact, you're the one that put her here with me. So why don't you and Eve go in a corner and figure it out? Because I don't have any blame for this. So you all have the blame. You are the ones that have created conflict. So every time that we want to do that, we shift blame and we hide. Blame is used to shift responsibility from someone else to who we want else to be responsible. And then goes to Eve even. Eve does the same thing. Genesis 3:13. Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this that you have done?" And the woman said, "The serpent that you put here with us, he made me eat it." Like, we can't ever. Irresponsibility leads to blame and always leads to conflict. So we have to learn to take responsibility. When we're going to fight right, we've got to take responsibility. Let me show you what I mean. The last fight that you and your dating partner were in, last fight that you and your spouse were in, I would ask you to just go, if you're going to fight right, I would want you to sit here, not on the opposite sides of this. I'd want to sit on the same side of this and go, okay, this is the issue that we had. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this issue. This is the whole issue. This is the whole fight. It's all comprised in that circle. How much of that do you need to own? And no one ever picks up the pencil first and goes, "Oh, I gotta own all of it." Most of us don't want to take, like, our immediate reaction is not to own any of it, because we want to be able to blame someone else and not take responsibility for the fight that's going on. But what's helpful, if you're going to fight right, if this is the whole conflict going on, use at least a little slice that I have to put that. I mean, even if it's this, even if it's just, okay, I admit I got a little bit to own, but really it's all them. What that does is, how much do we need to own in the last conflict that we had? It helps me realize that when I own a slice, when I take some ownership, I'm taking some responsibility for the conflict that's going on. And if I own a slice, then I have to play nice. Because if two people are coming together with the idea that we're going to own our stuff in this fight, and we're not just fighting against each other, we're fighting for each other, and we got to own some stuff in our last conflict, man, it is a great way to live. In fact, what I'm learning is that healthy conflict is way greater than artificial harmony. I mean, we want to fight right. We don't want to just like fake it. Who wants to be in that kind of friendship or working relationship or marriage? Healthy conflict is greater than artificial harmony. A fight is a vigorous way. I love this quote from Cloud and Townsend. A fight is a vigorous way to solve the problem of two people disagreeing while wanting to remain connected. Let me just, with the time that we have left, let me just walk through just some super practical ways that we can begin to fight right God's way. Like when fighting happens, when conflict happens, because we are two imperfect people in this relationship together, in this friendship together, in this working relationship together, in this dating relationship together, in this marriage relationship together, in this parenting and child relationship together. We're two imperfect people. So the next time conflict arises, we're going to say, you know what? Our goal is that we want to fight right, man. We want to get this right. And so how do we do that? What I would say, and what's been helpful for me, and what I would counsel in any premarital stuff, is to make the rules beforehand. Like, what's in bounds and out of bounds when you fight? Like for a married couple, I'd say, like, do not use divorce as a weapon. One of our silly ones for Jody and I is like, don't say shut up. It's one of mine that I put on our fighting rules. I don't know why, because I say shut up all the time. I would tell my friends to shut up jokingly. I would be like, oh, shut up, that's stupid. But for some reason in our house, we do not say shut up, because it's like a thing for me. No one ever told me to shut up when I was a kid, so I don't know where that comes from, but it's like a rule that's one of the things. That's a silly one for us, but you need to make sure that we got the rules ahead of time so that even if you're 100% right in the conflict, but you fight the wrong way and break some of the predetermined rules, you got stuff to own. You can be right in what you're trying to fight for, but if you do it the wrong way, it still doesn't work as fighting right. And over the years, you will have to add to your list, because you will find loopholes. And like, well, we didn't have that rule in beforehand. And so when you're not fighting, then you can go add some addendums to the rules that you make about how we are going to choose to fight right. Stuff like we're not slamming doors. Stuff like we're not peeling out. Stuff like we're going to be able to have some time to cool off, but you have to initiate the time to come back and talk. Like simple, practical rule stuff about how we could fight right. Second, pray. Because every fight is a spiritual deal and an opportunity for God to grow us. Every relational fight, every church fight, every team fight, every friendship fight, every marital fight. Man, when I'm praying, and I'm not the best at this all the time, when I'm praying with Joe about stuff, it changes the temperature of the fight. So pray, because it's an opportunity for God to grow us, and God to grow us personally, and God to grow us relationally. And that's what we want. Third, fight for each other, not just with each other. So one of my tips in counseling as we're talking about conflict is like sometimes we would view like we've got this conflict on the table and I'm here and you're there and we aren't going to be okay because we got the thing on the table in between us. And so we're fighting with each other about the thing on the table. And there's a lot of things that go into this thing. There's a lot of history that goes into this thing. There's a lot of the way that we talk about this thing. There's the stuff that goes into this thing. We aren't okay fighting with each other until this thing is handled. What I would counsel, what I would help your next fight, try to get on the same side of the issue, whatever issue it is, and say, we are fighting for each other about this thing. But it's not separating us. We are for each other on this thing. We're not fighting with each other about this thing. We are for each other working on this issue that's in between, that's messing up our relationship. And we want to fight right about it. It's on the table. We're not hiding it. We're not sweeping it under the rug, but we're for each other in this. We're not just fighting with each other. It's super helpful. The fourth one, you got to be humble. Man, when you got stuff to own, it de-escalates the pride situation of you wanting to win the fight. Because when you got stuff to own, you got to walk into it and realize, like, man, I'm not a perfect person. You're not a perfect person. We are imperfect people, but we want to fight for each other and for this relationship, and I got stuff that I need to own. And if two people that are in a relationship are bringing that to the table, man, that's how you fight right. Fifth, you initiate the conversation. But Mike, they should know. They did it. No. You initiate the conversation. I would even add to this, you initiate the conversation with the person. Don't go initiate the conversations with everyone else about the person. That's not how you fight right. That's fighting very wrong. You initiate the conversation with the person, even if you think they should know. One of my things that's been helpful for me, it's not their responsibility to know if you don't go and tell them. That's how you fight right. Because we're fighting for the relationship, because we want to be right. Sixth, I would say, is that you got to guard your tongue. This thing is a weapon. In fact, the book of James talks a ton about that. You can do so much damage to a relationship with this little muscle in your mouth that can carve people up and say things that you cannot take back. So guard your tongue. And then lastly, own your part. Be specific. Like, here's what I did. When two people that are imperfect are in a relationship and they have those rules in place and they have that, like the way that they want to present themselves in the place, and they're praying with and for each other and they're fighting for each other, not just with each other, and they're humble about it and they're leading the conversation and they're guarding their tongue and they're owning their own part. Man, can you imagine what our world would look like? We would be the example as Christians, example as friends of how you handle relationship and how you handle conflict and how you fight right in a healthy way for the relationship, not just about the issue. This is tough because every relationship that you're ever going to have is going to have imperfect people in it. But I pray that we could have the goal to fight right. And you're going to get it wrong, but the trajectory of our conflict is always going to be that we're moving to be fighting more healthy than we were a year ago, because we want to do it God's way. And God's way is the absolute best. Man, left to my own devices, I would have a carnage of broken relationships in the back of my life. But by the grace of God, people have fought right with me, and I'm trying to fight right with them so that we can do this together for the long haul over a long time and bring health to all of our relational world. And I want that for you so bad. Why don't you pray with me? God, this is difficult because we get it wrong more than we get it right. But God, you have so much to say about relationship and how we go to the person, how we own our stuff, and how we live humble lives, and how we want to live at peace if it all depends on us, and how we speak truth in love. Like, you have so much to say about relationships. So it's clear that you've wired us for it, and it's clear that you care about the health of it. And so if we're going to have conflict in our relationships, let's at least do it right. Let's at least be good about it so that it could bring health. We need you. We love you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Hey, as we're wrapping up here online, I just want you to know there are safe people all in this host chat. There are steps to take. There are links to click. Man, don't leave this. If you got stuff going on or stuff you need to talk about or a step you need to take, man, click on that. Reach out. And sometimes it takes a little bravery to put yourself out there. I know, but man, there's a whole bunch of church people, a whole bunch of people here at Mission that would love to help you find or follow Jesus and take some next steps in any way that'd be helpful. So make sure you don't bolt before you do that. We'll catch you next week. Much love and peace.